We are live.
Yay! We made it to Friday. Yay! All right. I am old new dude. He is.
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
Um, this is Arya 8. Again, Arya and Tyrion are staying in step with the amount of chapters that they have. It's another short chapter,
Yep.
but there's some good stuff in it. So if you've watched any of these, we start with the brains of the operation, which is Richard. He will say what he saw in the chapter, and then I will jump in with my stupid stuff. So take it away, Richard.
Yeah, I saw something foreshadowed in here that I didn't remember, which is interesting, but we'll get there when we get there, I guess.
Okay.
Clash 38, Arya 8. Arya names her second victim. Confusion and clangor ruled the castle. Men stood in the beds of wagons loading casks of wine, sacks of flour, and bundles of new-fletched arrows. Smiths straightened swords, knocked dents from breastplates, and shoed destiers and pack mules alike. Mail shirts were tossed in barrels of sand and rolled across the lumpy surface of the flowstone yard to scour them clean. Weiss's woman had 20 cloaks to mend, 100 more to wash. The high and humble crowded into the steppe together to pray. Outside the walls, tents and pavilions were coming down. Squires tossed pails of water over cook fires, while soldiers took out their oilstones to give their blades one last good lick. The noise was the swelling tide, horses blowing and whickering, lords shouting commands, men at arms trading curses, camp followers squabbling. Lord Tywin Lannister was marching at last. Sir Adam Marburn was the first of the captains to depart, a day before the rest. He made a gallant show of it, riding a spirited red courser whose mane was the same copper color as the long hair that streamed past Sir Adam's shoulders. The horse was barded in bronze-colored trappings dyed to match the rider's cloak and emblazoned with the burning tree. Some of the castlewomen sobbed to see him go. Weiss said he was a great horseman and sword fighter, Lord Tywin's most daring commander. I hope he
Quick thing.
dies.
Yeah. Quick thing. Anytime we're told someone is a great horseman,
Mm-hmm.
it makes me wonder if that is a nod to the like.
Yeah. So some people have been like, well, surely when Bloodraven says 1 in 1,000 and 1 in 1,000, it's just like approximate numbers. Because doesn't George realize how many people that would be? There's like millions of people, so there's like thousands of them ought to be skin changers. And it's like, or maybe thousands of them have the blood to be skin changers and don't know it.
Exactly.
You know, we've talked before over 1,000 years in a continent-sized area with reasonable interbreeding. You would expect everyone to who have all of the same ancestors from 1,000 years ago.
Right. Well, I mean, there's a million people in King's Landing alone. Granted, the North doesn't have a great
Right.
population, but they tend to have the most magical blood that we've seen so far.
Lizzie says, "Hi guys, I'm here, but I'm driving, so someone keep count from one." All right, I guess the shirt is one, and there is
Yeah.
definitely going to be a reference in here.
Okay.
Specifically, what I was talking about before. There's some interesting foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Sort of contradicts what I thought was happening, but it might actually mean something else, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
I hope he dies, Arya thought as she watched him ride out the gate. Oh, I also wanted to say that I kind of think Adam's not particularly bad as Lannister soldiers go. He's
Yeah.
Anyway. I hope he dies, Arya thought as she watched him ride out the gate, his men streaming after him in a double column. I hope they all die. They were going to fight Robb, she knew. Listening to the talk as she went about her work, Arya had learned that Robb had won some great victory in the West. He'd burned Lannisport, some said, or else he meant to burn it. He captured Castle Rock and put everyone to the sword, or was besieging the Golden Tooth. But something had happened, that much was certain.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how George loves exploring how inaccurate the flow of information can be, but always has some hints at the truth in them.
Oh
And
yeah.
Arya is smart enough to realize, what's questionable and what's definite, right?
Yeah.
Weiss had her running messages from dawn to dusk. Some of them even took her beyond the castle walls, out into the mud and madness of the camp. I could flee, she thought as a wagon rumbled past her. I could hop on the back of a wagon and hide, or fall in with the camp followers. No one would stop me. She might have done it if not for Weiss. He told them more than once what he'd do to anyone who tried to run off on him. It won't be no beating. Oh no, I won't lay a finger on you. I'll just save you for the Korhark. Yes, I will. I'll save you for the Crippler. Vargo Hoad, his name is. When he gets back, he'll cut off your feet. Maybe if Weiss were dead, Arya thought, but not when she was with him. He could look at you and smell what you were thinking. He always said so. Hey, guys.
Hey, new subscriber.
Nice.
Welcome.
Weiss never imagined she... I did want to say something there. What did I want to say? There's always these little hints, and we'll see more of them in this chapter, where people, the concept that people might be able to know what you're thinking.
Right.
Weiss never imagined she could read, though, so he never bothered to seal the messages he gave her. This will say. Arya peeked at them all, but they were never anything good, just stupid stuff, sending this cart to the granary and that one to the armory. One was a demand for payment on a gambling debt. The knight she gave it to couldn't read. When she told him what it said, he tried to hit her, but Arya ducked under the blow, snatched a silver-banded drinking horn off his saddle, and darted away. The knight roared and came after her, but she slid between two wains, wove through a crowd of archers, and jumped a latrine trench. In his mail, he couldn't keep up. When she gave the horn to Weiss, he told her that a smart little weasel like her deserved a reward. I've got my eye on a plump, crisp capon to sup on tonight. We'll share it, me and you. You'll like that. If he remembered, he might have survived this chapter. Everywhere she went, Arya searched for Jaqen H'ghar, wanting to whisper another name to him before those she hated were all gone out of her reach. But amidst the chaos and confusion, the Lorathri sellsword was not to be found. He still owed her 2 deaths, and she was worried she would never get them if he rode off to battle with the rest. Finally, she worked up the courage to ask one of the gate guards if he'd gone. One of Lorch's men, is he? The man said. He won't be going then. His lordship's named Sir Amory Castellan of Harrenhal. That whole lot's staying right here to hold the castle. The bloody members will be left as well to do the foraging. That goat Vargo Hoat is like to spit. Him and Lorch have always hated each other. So there's a little bit of foreshadowing for Vargo's betrayal.
Yes.
The mountain would... Oh, what do we got here? Howdy, lords and ladies. Finishing up some errands with the kids, then back to the woods. Sir Dave. Thanks, Sir Dave.
Hey, I hope you're feeling better there, Sir Dave.
The mountain would be leaving with Lord Tywin, though. He would command the van in battle, which meant that Dunson, Polliver, and Raff would all slip between her fingers unless she could find Jaqen and have him kill one of them before they left. Weiss said that afternoon. Get to the armory and tell Lucan that Sir Lionel notched his sword in practice and needs a new one. Here's his mark. He handed her a square of paper. Be quick about it now. He's to ride with Sir Kevin Lannister. Arya took the paper and ran. The armory adjoined the castle smithy, a long, high-roofed tunnel of a building with 20 forges built into its walls and long stone water troughs for tempering the steel. Half of the forges were at work when she entered. The walls rang with the sound of hammers, and burly men in leather aprons stood sweating in the sullen heat as they bent over bellows and anvils. When she spied Gendry, his bare chest was slick with sweat, but the blue eyes under the heavy black hair had the stubborn look she remembered. Arya didn't know that she even wanted to talk to him. It was his fault they'd all been caught. Which one is Lucan? She thrust out the paper. I'm to get a new sword for Sir Lionel. Sir Dave says, yeah, the sick finally worked its way through the house.
Glad to hear it.
Never mind about Sir Lionel. He drew her aside by the arm. Last night, Hot Pie asked me if I heard you yell Winterfell back at the Holdfast when we were all fighting on the wall. I never did. Yes, you did. I heard you too. Well, everyone is yelling stuff, Arya said defensively. Hot Pie yelled Hot Pie. He must have yelled it 100 times. It's what you yelled that matters. I told Hot Pie he should clean the wax out of his ears. Then all you yelled was, go to hell. If he asks you, you better say the same. I will, she said, even though she thought go to hell was a stupid thing to yell. She didn't dare tell Hot Pie who she really was. Maybe I should say Hot Pie's name to Jaqen. Weiss is no Tywin Lannister, but he's definitely a better choice than Hot Pie.
That is a very, very dark thought from Arya. Because we don't get anything after that, oh, I better not do that. He's a friend type situation. It's maybe I should say Hot Pie's name, and it just leaves it right there. Well,
but to be fair, she's concerned that she could have some serious repercussions if the truth got out, that she would be. I mean, she's correct that what would happen is she'd be the one marrying Ramsay instead of Jane.
Yeah.
How many people yelled Hot Pie just now?
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Charles is here. Hola. ¿Qué pasa? Anyway, I also like that Weese's name is probably just chosen by taking the first syllable of Weasel, just to make it because you so many times there's a few times here where you see the Weasel we said kind of thing, right?
Right.
Anyway, I'll get Lucan, Gendry said. Lucan grunted at the writing, though Arya did not think he could read it, and pulled down a heavy longsword. This is too good for that oaf, and you tell him I said so, he said as he gave her the blade. I will, she lied. If she did any such thing, Whis would beat her bloody. Lucan could deliver his own insults. The longsword was a lot heavier than the needle had been, but Arya liked the feel of it. The weight of steel in her hands made her feel stronger. Maybe I'm not a water dancer yet, but I'm not a mouse either. A mouse couldn't use a sword, but I can. The gates were open, soldiers coming and going, drays rolling in empty and going out creaking and swaying under their loads. She thought about going to the stables and telling them that Sir Lionel wanted a new horse. She had the paper. The stable boys wouldn't be able to read it any better than Lucan had. I could take the horse and the sword and just ride out. If the guards tried to stop me, I'd show them the paper and say I was bringing everything to Sir Lionel. She had no notion what Sir Lionel looked like or where to find him, though. If they questioned her, they'd know. And then Weiss. So I still think Dark Sister belongs with Bao. See, Triplet Targaryens, episode 7. but this does seem to foreshadow Arya with either Dark Sister or maybe Widow's Wail or Oathkeeper. So, because I mean, the idea that this is a heavy longsword,
right,
a lot heavier than Neil had been, but Arya liked the feel of it, right? And,
right.
So it makes me think that she's probably going to be wielding a longsword and not needle in the long run. I guess. I mean, it seems to be the implication.
You got to stop and remember too. If it's a Valyrian steel sword, it's lighter than the longsword that she's holding now.
Right, and that would make a lot of sense, right? That she's practicing for the weight of needle, but that's probably the weight of a Valyrian steel longsword.
Right. Drive careful there, Sir Dave.
Back on the road, but I'm listening along. Great. So, anyway, I just think the implication is that she probably will wield one of these 3 Valyrian steel blades or some other Valyrian steel blade that we haven't heard of. In the book, there's no mention of the Targaryen blades. Even the word Blackfire is only ever used to refer to the people and not to the sword.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so there's really been no mention of Dark Sister or Blackfire in the main series.
When Griff and young Griff meet the Golden Company, they only say, "We thought that he would have the sword."
That's actually been edited out of the more recent released versions. That was, they mentioned the sword, but even then they just said the sword. They never said Blackfire.
Right, they didn't say the name.
Right. Arya is the Dark Sister. Sorry if talk to text ruins anything. Yeah, that's certainly what. Well, it does make it look like the word Arya, which is fine. But but it is a song of ice and fire after all, right? Anyway,
that's a good point, though. That Arya is the Dark Sister.
I still like the idea that if we're gonna get Blackfire to Aegon, we should probably get Dark Sister to Val. Anyway. As she chewed her lip, trying not to think about how it would feel to have her feet cut off, a group of archers in leather jerkins and iron helms went past, their bows slung across their shoulders. Arya heard snatches of their talk. Giants, I tell you! He's got giants 20 foot tall come down from beyond the wall, follow him like dogs. Not natural coming on them so fast, in the night and all. He's more wolf than man, all them Starks are. Shit on your wolves and giants. The boy'd piss his pants if he knew we was coming. He wasn't man enough to march on Harrenhal, was he? Ran the other way, didn't he? He'd run now if he knew what was best for him. So you say, but it might be the boy knows something we don't. Maybe it's us ought to be run. Yes, Arya thought. Yes, it's you who ought to run. You and Lord Tywin and the Mountain and Sir Adam and Sir Amory and stupid Sir Lionel, whoever he is. All of you better run, or my brother will kill you. He's a Stark. He's more wolf than man. So am I. So there's some more seeds of truth in amongst these rumors, right? And you have to wonder if some of the sigils might and some of the people might be potentially rumored to be giants and so forth, like the Great John, for example.
Right.
Anyway, Weasel's voice cracked like a whip. She never saw where he came from, but suddenly he was right in front of her. Give me that. Took you long enough. He snatched the sword from her fingers and dealt her a stinging slap at the back of his hand. Next time, be quicker about it. For a moment, she'd been a wolf again, but Wisa's slap took it all away and left her with nothing but the taste of her own blood in her mouth. She'd bitten her tongue when he hit her. She hated him for that. This was a fatal slap, but not for Arya. You want another? Weiss demanded. You'll get it, too. I'll have none of your insolent looks. Get down to the brew house and tell Tuffleberry that I have 24 barrels for him, but he'd better send his lads to fetch them, or I'll find someone who wants them worse. Arya started off, but not quick enough for Weiss. You run if you want to eat tonight, he shouted, his promises of the plump, crisp capon already forgotten. And don't be getting lost again, or I swear I'll beat you bloody. You won't, Arya thought. You won't ever again, but she ran. The old gods of the north must have been guiding her steps. Halfway to the brew house, as she was passing under the stone bridge that arched between Widow's Tower and Kingspire, she heard harsh, growling laughter. Rorge came around a corner with 3 other men, the Manicore badge of Sir Amory sewn over their hearts. When he saw her, he stopped and grinned, showing a mouthful of crooked brown teeth under the leather flap he wore sometimes to cover the hole in his face. Yoren's little cunt, he called her. Guess we know why the black bastard wanted you on the wall, don't we? He laughed again, and the others laughed with him. Where's your stick now? Rorge demanded suddenly, the smile gone as quick as it had come. Seems to me I promised to fuck you with it. He took a step toward her. Arya edged backward. Not so brave now that I'm not in chains, are you? I saved you. She kept a good yard between them, ready to run quick as a snake if he made a grab for her. Oh, you another fucking for that, seems like. Did Yoren pump your cunny, or did he like that tight little ass better? I'm looking for Jaqen, she said. There's a message. Rorge halted. Something in his eyes. Could it be that he was scared of Jaqen Hagar? The bathhouse. Get out of my way. Yes, he is.
Yeah, now, he is a large man, and Jaqen Hagar is standard size, knight-ish, maybe a little bit smaller.
Right. There seems like there's an implication here that either they've seen Jaqen do something like magic, or he's sort of the traditional beat up the biggest bully guy, right, in the jail, right. Girl Nettles is here. Hey.
Hey, Nettles. Yeah, there's definitely something that either Jaqen Hagar did, or they sensed from Jaqen Hagar, or they know who Jaqen Hagar is, or
right. Yeah, but for
this large of a man to be scared of Jaqen Hagar, with the little information that we know that he spent with Jaqen Hagar, right. There's a lot. There's more going on there.
Right. Arya whirled and ran, swift as a deer. Oh, also notice that she thinks coming to Rorge was luck guided by the gods.
Gods, yeah.
Yep. Arya whirled and ran, swift as a deer, her feet flying over the cobbles all the way to the bathhouse. She found Jaqen soaking in a tub, steam rising around him as the serving girl sluiced hot water over his head. His long hair, red on one side and white on the other, fell down across his shoulders, wet and heavy. She crept up quiet as a shadow, but he opened his eyes all the same. She steals in on little mice feet, but a man hears, he said. How could he hear me, she wondered, and seemed as if he heard that as well. The scuff of leather on stone sings loud as war horns to a man with open ears. Clever girls go barefoot. So Arya will get this lesson and will go barefoot. And it's interesting that he seems to read her thoughts yet again here, right? And I think that's going to happen one more time. Maybe Jaqen simply changed his face, and that was enough to scare Rorge and Biter. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He could have just have worked some glamour or some magic, and it'd been enough for them to be like, yeah, we don't want to mess with this guy.
Well, I mean, in the graphic novel, the scene where Arya and them are leaving King's Landing, Jaqen Hagar is a hooded man. You see Rorge and Biter, but you don't see Jaqen Hagar's face. So he could have been looking one way when he went into the wagons and changed his face in the wagons in front of Rorge or Biter.
Right, I mean, right. Well, that's the concept, right? That he may have done something magic, such as glamour, with it that they saw.
Also, notice that Jaqen Hagar says mice feet when she thinks of herself as a mouse.
Yep. All the more reason for her to think that it's as if he can read her mind.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I have a message. Arya eyed the serving girl uncertainly. When she did not seem likely to go away, she leaned in until her mouth was almost touching his ear. Whis, she whispered. Juckanagar closed his eyes again, floating languid, half asleep. Tell his lordship, a man shall attend him at his leisure. His hand moved suddenly, splashing hot water at her, and Arya had to leap back to keep from getting drenched. When she told Tuffleberry what Whis had said, the brewer cursed loudly. You tell Whis my lad's got duties to attend to, and you tell him he's a pox-ridden bastard, too, and the seven hells will freeze over before he gets another horn of my ale. I'll have them barrels within the hour, or Lord Tywin will hear of it. See if you don't. Whis cursed, too, when Arya brought back that message, even though she left out the pox-ridden bastard part. He fumed and threatened, but in the end, he rounded up 6 men and sent them off grumbling to fetch the barrels down to the brewhouse. Supper that evening was a thin stew of barley, onion, and carrots, with a wedge of stale brown bread. One of the women had taken a sleeping in Whis's bed, and she got a piece of bright blue cheese as well, and a wing off the capon that Whis had spoken of that morning. He ate the rest himself, the grease running down in a shiny line through the boils that festered at the corner of his mouth. The bird was almost gone when he glanced up from his trencher and saw Arya staring. Weasel, come here. A few mouthfuls of dark meat still clung to one thigh. He forgot, but now he's remembered, Arya thought. It made her feel bad for telling Jaka to kill him. She got off the bench and went to the head of the table. She will regret naming him, but not now. I saw you looking at me. Whis wiped his fingers in the front of her shift. Then he grabbed her throat with one hand and slapped her with the other. What did I tell you? He slapped her again, backhand. Keep those eyes to yourself, for next time I'll spoon one out and feed it to my bitch. A shove sent her stumbling to the floor. Her hem caught on a loose nail in the splintered wooden bench and ripped as she fell. You'll mend that before you sleep, Whis announced as he pulled the last bit of meat off the capon. When he was finished, he sucked his fingers noisily and threw the bones to his ugly spotted dog. Whis, Arya whispered that night as she bent over the tear in her shift. Dunson, Polliver, Wrath the Sweetling, she said, calling a name every time she pushed the bone needle through the undyed wool. The Tickler and the Hound, Sir Gregor, Sir Amory, Sir Ilyn, Sir Meryn, King Joffrey, Queen Cersei. She wondered how much longer she would have to include Whis in her prayer, and drifted off to sleep, dreaming that on the morrow, when she woke, he'd be dead. But it was the sharp toe of Wys's boot that woke her, as ever. The main strength of Lord Tywin's host would ride this day, he told them as they broke their fast on oat cakes. Don't none of you be thinking how easy it'll be here once the Lord of Lannister is gone, he warned. The castle won't grow no smaller, I promise you that. Only now there'll be fewer hands to tend to it. You lot of sluggabugs are going to learn what work is now. Yes, you are. Not from you. Arya picked at her oaten cake. Whis frowned at her, as if he smelled her secret. Quickly, she dropped her gaze to her food and dared not raise her eyes again. George does have a lot of hints of mine reading this chapter.
Yeah, he does.
Pale light filled the yard when Lord Tywin Lannister took his leave of Harrenhal. Arya watched from an arched window halfway up the Wailing Tower. His charger wore a blanket of enameled crimson scales and gilded crinet and I don't know what that is. Crinet maybe and champron. While Lord Tywin himself sported a thick ermine cloak. His brother Sir Kevan looked near as splendid. No less than 4 standard bearers went before them, carrying huge crimson banners emblazoned with the golden lion. Behind the lancers came their great lords and captains. Their banners flared and flapped, a pageant of color: red ox and golden mountain, purple unicorn and bantam rooster, brindled boar and badger, silver ferret and a juggler and motley, stars and sunbursts, peacock and panther, chevron and dagger, black hood and blue beetle and green arrow. Green arrow, of course, is probably thrown in as a Marvel reference, but a lot of these things are symbolism, and it's interesting that we see both Tywin and Cersei sometimes wearing white cloaks like that.
Yeah. Well, the blue beetle and green arrow are DC references.
Okay. Last of all came Sir Gregor Clegane in his gray plate steel, astride a stallion as bad-tempered as his rider. Polliver rode beside him with the black dog standard in his hand and Gendry's horned helm on his head. He was a tall man, but he looked no more than a half-grown boy when he rode in his master's shadow.
Yeah.
A shiver crept up.
Hold on a second. Sir Gregor Clegane and his astride a stallion is bad-tempered as his rider, just as it's hinted that the Hound is a spin changer with his mount. The same thing could be said for Sir Gregor.
Right. How do they manage to simultaneously have these horses broken and yet not be friendly to other humans and so forth, right?
Yeah. Well, the mount has taken up the personality of the rider or
As
vice
if they
versa.
shared a single mind.
Exactly.
To quote the obvious Stark skin changer reference for Danny.
Yeah, there you
Anyway,
go.
last of all came Sir. Oh, we did that one already. A shiver crept up Arya's spine as she watched them pass into the great iron portcullis of Harrenhal. Suddenly, she knew that she had made a terrible mistake. I'm so stupid, she thought. She does love the word stupid. Weiss did not matter, no more than Chiswick had. These were the men who mattered, the ones she ought to have killed. Last night she could have whispered any of them dead if only she hadn't been so mad at Weiss for hitting her and lying about the Capon. Lord Tywin, why did I say Lord Tywin? As Brandon the Walters said, Tywin's the one that matters.
Exactly.
Perhaps it was
Now,
not too late
I
to
wonder.
go ahead.
We always talk about intervention from somebody, future brand, Blood Raven, or whatever. The suddenly finding a way to Jock and Agar after Wheeze had pissed her off. Is that a way of diverting her names away
with the author
from?
even telling us that she's being guided by the old gods, right?
Right, but that they did it in a way that she hadn't thought of naming Lord Tywin, because if she'd have named Lord Tywin, other things that happened because of Lord Tywin wouldn't have happened. So
Right.
uh,
This is all the butterfly effect that all these things have to happen for.
right. So the manipulation to get her to name Wheeze saves Lord Tywin.
Yep.
What'd you say?
Like when the Hound and Arya got further into their trip, she was able to groom Stranger when at first she couldn't touch him. I think it was after she acknowledged her mother was dead, right?
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, the implication that nobody can go near Stranger, but that Arya can. Yep.
Yeah, because her and the Hound's relationship slowly shifts over time. So he's comfortable with her, doesn't care if she comes or goes. Then Stranger's like, okay, whatever.
And plus, it could be that she's getting better and better at her own skin changing as well, and so she's able to help bond with the horse.
Yeah, this is true.
Perhaps it was not too late to change her mind. Weiss was not killed yet. If she could find Jack and tell him. Hurriedly, Arya ran down the twisting steps, her chores forgotten. She heard the rattle of chains as the portcullis was slowly lowered, its spikes sinking deep into the ground. And then another sound, a shriek of pain and fear. A dozen people got there before her, though none was coming any too close. Arya squirmed between them. Weiss was sprawled across the cobbles, his throat a red ruin, eyes gaping sightlessly up at a bank of gray cloud. His ugly spotted dog stood in his chest, lapping at the blood pulsing from his neck, and every so often ripping a mouthful of flesh out of the dead man's face. So we've got the Weirwood stigmata. This could be basilisk blood or skin changing. I tend to prefer the interpretation where characters are wrong, but it's meant to be ambiguous, right?
Right.
So I like the idea that Jockin is a skin changer, but
I do too.
It could just be basilisk blood. He's certainly trained in basilisk blood, and that would certainly have gotten the job done.
Yeah, well, I like the idea that every faceless man is a skin changer.
Or at least the ones that are capable of really changing their skin and working glamours and the rest of it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe not everybody that signs up with them is capable of that, but your thought is that they only recruit you if they're pretty sure you are.
Right. Because I mean, a ward can recognize a ward, so I would assume the skin changer can recognize the skin changer.
Yeah, we know that she tends to have. Well, does she have wolf dreams before he even? Yeah, I think she does. Has she had some wolf dreams already?
No, she hears wolves, and I want to say her first wolf dream is when they're running. Her, Gendry, and Hot Pie are on horseback, and she wolf dreams the wolves attacking her.
So why does he must? Oh, well, skin changers are supposed to be able to recognize skin changers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an LML term actually. Girl Nettle says I'm new. Explain Weirwood stigmata. So it's really the neck injuries and the blood. The point is that the red smile is supposed to look like the Weirwood, but it's really symbolic of traditional sacrifice of usually animals, but theoretically people as well. So typically, when you're going to do a ritual sacrifice, you would slit someone's throat or slit an animal's throat, typically, right?
Now the old lady that was in the Godswood with the bronze sickle, whatever it was, the sacrifice that Bran sees, she cuts his throat too, does she?
I think so.
Okay.
It's certainly that's the traditional way that sacrifice is done, right? Is slitting throats, and the concept of it as the weirwood stigmata is that the weirwoods look like they have a red smile.
Okay.
Finally, someone brought a crossbow and shot the spotted dog dead while she was worrying at one of Weiss's ears. Damnedest thing, she heard a man say. He had that bitch dog since she was a pup. This place is cursed, the man with the crossbow said. It's Heron's ghost, that's what it is, said goodwife Amabel. I'll not sleep here another night, I swear it. Arya lifted her gaze from the dead man and his dead dog. Jaqen H'ghar was leaning up against the side of the Wailing Tower. When he saw her looking, he lifted a hand to his face and laid 2 fingers casually against his cheek. I think her first wolf dream was when she escaped the fire and released the men in the cages. Okay, but they're not. But they aren't with her after that, right? So it would be hard for Jaqen to have noticed that. That's what I was trying to think. Is could Jaqen have actually? We know that at the House of Black and White, they tell her that they hear her doing the howling and stuff when she's dreaming. So she thinks she's like fooling them about so many things, and it's like you're not fooling them about anything, are
Well, I mean,
you?
Jaqen H'ghar is present with Arya when she's dreaming and dreams a wolf's howl, and then wakes up. And did you hear that? I mean, there are hints of small wolf dreams.
Okay. So you think that okay, yeah, you're right. She wakes up because and nobody else had heard, and she'd heard. Yeah. So she could potentially have been howling in her sleep or something. He might have reason to believe that she's a skin changer.
I think the game of lies is a way to focus the person's mind into mind reading, like we see Jaqen H'ghar do. To instead of looking at facial features and all that kind of stuff, it's actually reading the person's mind and knowing.
Yep. Lizzie says, "Yep, like that's what woke her up." Yep. And if he's a skin changer, then theoretically he's supposed to be able to recognize when other skin changers are skin changing and so forth, right?
Right.
One of the things that's kind of funny is that Jojen says that he can tell when Bran is skin changing, and yet Bran thinks that he gets away with having Hodor follow them around. And I'm like, does he though? Anyway, that's specifically when Hodor is wandering around, following them around and stuff. Is when Bran starts using he and him pronouns to refer to the people that he refers to as the wise old men, which is one of the reasons. I mean, first he calls them men, but secondly he uses he and him pronouns, and so people from the show have thought that all the children of the forest are sort of female presenting, and that does not appear to be like that. Doesn't seem to be the case, given that Bran specifically does use he and him pronouns and calls them wise men.
Right.
Up next is Clash 39, Catelyn 5. Catelyn, and at the end of it, Catelyn receives Ned's bones, and that's a long chapter, so I'm gonna have to actually work at abridging for a change after these last 3 that I didn't have to do.
Full chapters, but yeah.
And there's still, we're still only 30 minutes in here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, us adding comments here and there have made this a 30-minute.
Right. That's my point. Is even with us adding comments and reading the entire chapter, it's only half an hour.
Yeah. But I definitely believe that Jaqen H'ghar does skin change the dog, without a doubt.
Yeah, and we're commenting on the neck, and one of the things to think about is the neck injuries and so forth. One of the things to think about with the symbolism of the various injuries. Most people will tell you that the eye injuries represent Odin. The arm injuries, as in the broken arm of Dorne,
right?
They represent Tyr, he's technically somewhat of a war god, but this one's just because I want to see what my talk to text will do with the name ACoK Arya. Anyway, so the arm injuries mostly represent Tyr. And while he's technically considered a god of war, he's mostly about justice and law. And I consider, although yes, Jamie and Davos are sort of our justice representatives in a way. I consider Lewin to be perhaps one of the most important of those because
Oh,
does
wow.
the neck being destroyed represent Westeros itself being sacrificed? Yeah, that's definitely the part of the point, right? Is you've got the neck, and then you've also got the the broken arm of Dorne, right? And so you got one tier symbolism and one sort of the sacrifice symbolism. Um,
Lady Thistle off the top rope with that one.
Absolutely. The
Okay.
So one of the reasons why the hammers now most the hammer of justice is and most justice gods are associated with hammers, but um, in addition the hammer of the waters destroys the arm of Dorne. The arm represents Tyr, and Tyr represents justice. So you've also got this concept that hammers represent justice because the hammer of the waters ties to the Tyr symbols, and Tyr represents justice. Anyway, Lewin is the one that's kind of trying to prevent Bran from being the winged wolf, right? And
Right.
And then Tyr, in the story of Tyr and Fenrir, the great wolf, the story is that Tyr sacrifices his arm to chain up the wolf, and he does so with a chain of 6 impossible materials. And Lewin has a Valyrian steel link in his 7-linked chain, right? Which is the impossible material of the chains. And he gets his arm savaged by the wolves in the crypts, right? So anyway, that's my comments on necks and arms and eyes.
LML either has a video coming out or it's already out talking, or he mentioned something on Twitter about Moat Cailin being the original castle for the Night's Watch, meaning that's where it started, and the north above that was actually the Lands of Always Winter part of the.
Okay.
There wasn't a wall yet.
Interesting idea.
And then my comment was that speaking of the Hammers of the Waters, if that was the stopping point to fight the White Walkers, was the Hammer of the Waters for the neck meant to divide the north and the south with water, because to create a wider barrier.
And the other question is, have there been various times where we've had different chops, or did everything happen at once, right? There's a question of, pardon me, there's the question of did the Hammer of the Waters, was this a one-time event that simultaneously broke the arm? I do want to talk about that broke the arm of Dorne and flooded the neck and potentially plunged the world into darkness by the equivalent of like a nuclear winter, scattering all dust from the impact and so forth. So yeah, I mean, all of this stuff. Speaking of which, all this stuff is meant to be somewhat ambiguous, and Jaqen H'ghar, in my opinion, is meant to be ambiguous and possibly Syrio Forel. Shopnell asks, is Jaqen H'ghar really Syrio Forel? So people who will say no will say because he has to be dead, but he doesn't actually. He has to be dead to Arya symbolically. He doesn't actually have to be literally dead to fulfill that role in the narrative. So he could still be alive, but he can't reveal himself to Arya, or that would end the roles that he sort of symbolizes of the dead mentor figure, right? So,
well, I mean, if he is Syrio Forel and he's captured by, was it Boris or Meryn Trent or Boris Blunt? When Arya escapes,
Meryn
Trent, I could see that making him be put in the black cells.
Right. Now the thing is that that's one option, but the thing is, he does specifically order them to kill him, and so it seems unlikely that he would then capture somebody he specifically ordered to be killed. But of course, he announces that he doesn't run, but he lies. and so anyway, yeah.
And well, in my mind, Serial Pharrell is put in the black cells. He goes to the wagon with Rourge and Biter. He sees Arya, and then that's when he face changes that scares Rourge.
Could be.
Headcanon.
Yeah, I like it. Lizzie says that he was the only one the wolf trusted. Yeah, that's part of the point of Tyr, right? Is that he sacrifices his arm in order to bind the wolf, and the wolf trusts that he's not actually going to give up his arm, but he's willing to give up his arm. He's willing to give his right arm, as the saying goes, right? Anyway.
Well, I mean, getting back on the Jock and the Gar, Serial Pharrell. Serial Pharrell is somebody that Arya trusted completely, and she's put a lot of trust into the unknown man that is Jack and Agar. I mean, I'm on the fence, or not on the fence. I'm on that Jack and Agar is Serial Pharrell, but that's
I don't know if George has made up his mind as to whether or not that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
I think a lot of things he intends to be ambiguous, but I tend to prefer. Normally, when there's ambiguity, I tend to prefer whichever one gives us more irony. So we should be on the lookout to see if there's anything that would be particularly ironic about that, if that were the case. But I don't know if I've ever seen anything, but it feels like he loves to throw in when he gives one of us something that's ambiguous like this, he loves to throw in something where one interpretation would be a lot of irony, a lot of hypocrisy potentially, and the other interpretation does not. And I tend to think that that's deliberate. That kind of lets us know which one he likes. Like I think the Blackfires are supposed to be the good guys essentially, right? They're supposed to have somehow been proven to them that the Kingsguard brother of the Queen really was sleeping with the Queen. And for one thing, that makes Stannis more of a hypocrite and more dramatic irony there, right?
Yeah.
And that's part of why I like that interpretation. Another reason I like it is because he's definitely hinting that Richard III is the good guy, hence Richard of House York. But anyway,
you're not biased at all.
No, not at all. He definitely hints that a lot, and he tells people to read, Thomas Coleman and so forth, and he specifically points at histories and historical fiction where Richard III is the good guy. Ned is acting as the Richard III character in the first. And he's clearly the good guy, sort of. I mean, yeah. Of course, our interpretation makes him a complete hypocrite, and that's part of why I like it. But anyway, Arya is lucky to have the best mentors. Absolutely.
Yes, without a doubt. I don't know if it's luck though. It might be a master plan of
the old gods.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You got anything else?
No, like I said, the next one's pretty long, and Catelyn does receive Ned's bones, and of course Tyrion's sending the bones as a gesture of good faith, but he's also sending some things that are not good faith.
Yeah, all right, 4 particular people.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, you got the whole weekend to get that one ready.
At least I can. Yeah, at least I can try and go through and figure out what I want to keep from that. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Monday would be Cat 5, same bat time, same bat channel. As always on Friday, I'd like to wish everybody a safe and fun weekend. I will still be working on a car, the mother-in-law's vehicle. Apparently when I put the last gasket on there, a corner fell in and was inside the motor. Yeah, but that's my weekend. Was it I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Chopnell? Is that correct? If I got it wrong, please forgive me. I appreciate you joining the channel. Lizzie, as always, you're hilarious. Lady Pistol came in with the top rope. Krista Crow, my son, I'll see you when you get home from work. The Valencar, I always appreciate you watching the videos later on, leaving comments. If I forget anybody, James out there, I mean, we appreciate y'all, every one of you. We got up to 7 people on today's live stream. That's pretty good for us. So y'all please have a safe and a fun weekend. Nettles, damn, I forgot.
Just going through trying to figure out all the people that had said
I can imagine Nettles yelling at her phone, "Hey, you forgot me!" Getting ready to choke slam me, or as Jeff said yesterday in our chat, waffle stomp. So we appreciate it. Thank y'all, everyone. Y'all have a good weekend. Bye,
Me
Richard.
too. Bye.